The storm had left its mark on everything it touched. The land was heavy with the scent of wet soil, the grass pressed flat by the relentless rain, and puddles stretched across the dirt road leading to the ranch. A hush had fallen over the countryside, broken only by the occasional croak of frogs or the distant rumble of thunder still retreating beyond the hills. The sky wore a strange beauty. Dark clouds bruised purple and gray were slowly tearing open to reveal streaks of fading gold. It was the kind of evening where silence felt alive, where every detail seemed to whisper something unspoken. She came stumbling through the mud, her boots sinking with every step. The storm had not been kind to her. Her dress clung to her frame, torn at the hem, dirt clinging to the fabric like old scars. Strands of her hair stuck to her face, damp and tangled, framing eyes that were swollen from tears. Her legs trembled, not just from exhaustion but from the weight she carried inside. Each step forward was more than a movement across the field. It was a confrontation with her past, with every mistake that had led her away, and with every ounce of pride she had swallowed to come back. The barn loomed ahead, weathered wood standing strong against time, its roof glistening with rainwater. There, near the entrance, he stood. The cowboy. His shoulders broad beneath his plaid shirt, his boots planted firm in the mud, his hat tipped low to shield his eyes from the lingering drizzle. He had not moved since she appeared on the horizon, as though waiting for her was something he had always known he would do. His silence stretched across the field, filling the space between them with something far heavier than words. She slowed when she reached him, her chest rising and falling with the effort it took to stand so close. Her lips parted, but no sound came at first. She searched his face, desperate for some sign that she was welcome, that her return wasn't too late. At last, her voice broke free, ragged and uncertain. "Can you still hug me?" The words hung in the air like fragile glass, trembling on the edge of shattering. It was not just a question about her muddy clothes or her broken appearance. It was a plea for forgiveness, for reassurance, for proof that she hadn't lost him completely. She wasn't asking if he could hold her now, she was asking if he could still love her after everything. The cowboy didn't speak. His silence was steady, unyielding, yet not cold. He looked at her with eyes that carried the weight of years, years of waiting, years of wondering, years of hurt tucked beneath a stoic surface. Then, without a word, he stepped forward. His boots sank into the mud as he closed the space between them, his hand reaching out, steady and sure. When his arms wrapped around her, she collapsed into him as though her body had been waiting for this moment to finally let go. Her hands clutched his shirt, smearing it with dirt, her tears soaking into the fabric. She trembled against him, and for the first time in what felt like forever, she allowed herself to be small, to be broken, to be held. He didn't flinch at the mud, didn't recoil at the mess she was. He just held her, strong and unshaken, and in that silence came the loudest answer of all. Yes. Her body shook as the tears spilled freely, her face buried against his chest. Memories pressed against her mind, memories of the night she had left, of the pride that had pushed her away, of the distance that had grown between them like an untamed river. She had chased dreams that had turned hollow, leaving her with nothing but loneliness and regret. And now, standing in his arms, she realized she hadn't just been looking for a place to belong, she had been looking for him. The cowboy's hand moved slowly up her back, steadying her trembling frame. His breathing was calm, measured, and it wrapped around her like a blanket. His silence wasn't empty, it was filled with understanding. Words might have broken under the weight of what stood between them, but this embrace was strong enough to carry it all. He didn't need to say that he had missed her, that he had wondered if she would ever come back. She already knew. She could feel it in the way he held her as though letting go was no longer an option. Time seemed to stop in that field. The mud clung to their boots, the last droplets of rain slid down the edges of the barn roof, and the fading sun painted them in gold. For once, the world felt still, as though it respected the moment too much to intrude. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in years, she felt safe. Not because the storm had passed, not because the night was calm, but because his arms around her made her believe that no matter what had happened, she still had a home. Neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. Sometimes words only get in the way of the truth. The truth was in the way he pressed her tighter when her sobs grew harder. The truth was in the way she clung to him, afraid he might disappear if she loosened her grip. The truth was in the silence, in the warmth of their bodies pressed together, in the way the years apart melted into nothingness between heartbeats. When her tears finally slowed, she tilted her face upward, her cheeks streaked with mud and sorrow. He looked down at her, his jaw firm but his eyes softened with something that only she could read. She didn't need to hear the words. She already knew the answer to the question she had asked. Yes, he could still hug her. Yes, he still loved her. Yes, she still belonged here. The storm clouds above parted a little more, letting shafts of light spill across the field. The ranch, quiet and weathered, stood behind them like a witness to this unspoken reconciliation. The air smelled fresher now, as though the land itself had cleansed its wounds. She pressed her forehead against his chest again, not because she was weak, but because she had finally found strength in the place she had once abandoned. His hands rested firmly against her back, grounding her, reminding her that even broken things could be mended. And so they stood there, two souls who had wandered, two hearts who had carried pain, two people bound not by promises but by something deeper, something unshaken by time or mistakes. The world around them faded, leaving only the quiet of the evening and the warmth of their embrace. In that silence, they found healing. In that silence, they found love again. And in that silence, they realized that sometimes the loudest answers come without a single word. The night crept in slowly, stars beginning to pierce the sky, but neither moved. They didn't need to. The hug was enough. It always had been. It always would be.